The arrival of the twins. The colony ship floated in the endless dark of space, carrying hundreds of humans and supplies toward the edge of the galaxy. Among the tired passengers, whispers traveled like fire. People spoke in low voices about the strange newcomers. They were twins, alien twins, found drifting in a broken escape pod near a ruined world. No one knew their names, no one even wanted to ask, because the moment the airlock opened, a foul and heavy stench filled the corridors. The smell was unlike anything the humans had ever faced. It was sharp, thick, and clung to the skin like smoke. Children covered their noses, adults spat on the floor and muttered curses. The twins stood silently in the middle of the crowd, their thin alien bodies trembling. They looked young, almost like teenagers, with pale green skin hidden under layers of slime and dirt. Their long eyes glowed faintly, but no one could see their beauty beneath the filth. To the humans, they were monsters, cursed creatures who brought sickness and shame. The captain ordered the twins to stay in the lowest quarters of the ship. They were given no blankets, no proper food, only scraps and old water. Other passengers avoided the lower decks, holding cloths over their faces whenever they passed by. The twins learned quickly that no one wanted them. No one cared if they lived or died. They huddled together, whispering in their own strange language, comforting each other in the cold. Every hour the same thought burned in their minds. Why had they survived? If survival only meant rejection, among the crew was a young human soldier named Alex. He was not the strongest, not the highest in rank, but he was different from the others. He had seen many worlds, fought in battles, and watched people suffer in silence. When he first heard about the twins, he did not laugh like the others. Instead, he felt something stir inside him, a small voice telling him there was more to the story. One night, after his shift, Alex walked down to the lower quarters. The air grew heavier with each step. The stench made his throat tighten, but he pressed on, ignoring the nausea twisting in his stomach. At the end of the corridor, he saw them, the alien twins curled up against a metal wall. They were trying to sleep, but hunger made their bodies weak. Their eyes opened at the sound of his boots, glowing faintly in the shadows. They expected cruelty, another insult, another kick. But Alex knelt down slowly, placing a small packet of ration bread in front of them. The twins did not move at first. They stared at him with suspicion, their hands clutching each other tightly. Alex pushed the food closer and spoke in a calm voice. "You need this more than I do," he said gently. The twins looked at each other, unsure if this was a trap. Finally, one of them reached out, trembling, and grabbed the bread. They tore it in half and shared it silently, never taking their glowing eyes off Alex. The stench was still strong. It made his eyes water, but he did not step back. Instead, he sat on the floor, watching them eat. Other soldiers would have laughed at him, called him insane. But Alex felt no shame, only pity and a strange sense of respect. He realized these creatures were not cursed, only abandoned. They were alive, fragile, and desperate for kindness. When the twins finished the bread, they lowered their heads. It was their way of thanking him, though they had no words in his language. Alex nodded back, a small smile breaking on his face. Something unspoken passed between them, a promise that this moment was only the beginning. But far above, on the upper decks, the humans whispered again. Rumors spread that a soldier had been seen near the cursed ones. They mocked him in secret, calling him foolish, reckless, even dirty like them. Yet Alex paid no attention to their voices, because deep down he felt certain, if no one else would see the twins as living beings, then he would. And as he rose to leave, he spoke words that neither twin understood but would remember forever. "I will help you," he said quietly, "no matter what it costs." The ship hummed through the silence of space. But for the first time since their rescue, the alien twins did not feel completely alone. First contact with courage. The next day on the colony ship began like any other. Engines humming through the dark of space. People lining up for rations, children running down narrow halls. But whispers still carried about the soldier who dared to feed the cursed twins. Some laughed at Alex behind his back, some shook their heads in disbelief. A few warned him outright, "Stay away from them." Or you'll stink like they do, they sneered. But Alex was not moved by their words. His thoughts stayed with the glowing eyes of the twins, the way they had clutched the bread with trembling hands, and the silent thanks that needed no translation. That night, when most of the crew slept, Alex returned to the lower decks. The air was still thick, sharp enough to make his chest ache, but he did not turn away. He found the twins where he had left them, sitting close together like frightened animals guarding each other. This time, they looked up as soon as he appeared, not with fear alone, but with a small spark of recognition. Alex lowered himself to the floor again, careful and slow, and placed another packet of food between them. The twins did not wait as long as before. They took it quickly, still watching him. Still unsure if trust was safe. "Eat," Alex said softly. "You'll need strength." He knew they could not understand the words, but his tone was calm, steady, carrying no threat. They tore the food in half, just like the last time, sharing everything as if their survival depended on it. When they finished, Alex reached into his pack and pulled out a small flask of water. Clean water. He pushed it toward them, but they froze, their eyes widening as if he had handed them a priceless gift. Slowly, the smaller twin took it, pressing the edge of the flask to trembling lips, then passing it to the other. Their glowing eyes softened, and for the first time Alex thought he saw something new: hope. But the silence was heavy, the stench pressing down on every breath. Alex coughed, his stomach twisting, yet he forced himself not to retreat. He needed them to see that he would not leave, not like the others, so he spoke again, pointing to himself. "Alex." The twins tilted their heads, confused. Then one of them copied his gesture, placing a hand against her chest and releasing a sound, rough and broken. It was a name, strange and alien, but it was a beginning. The second twin followed, whispering another sound, softer, almost like a song. Alex repeated both sounds clumsily, his accent heavy, and the twins' eyes widened in surprise. For the first time since their rescue, the twins made a small sound together, a sound like laughter. It was faint, nervous, and filled with sadness, but it was laughter all the same. Alex smiled, realizing this was the first barrier breaking, the first light pushing through the darkness of their shame. But not everyone was blind to his actions. From the corner of the corridor, unseen by Alex, another crew member watched. He wrinkled his nose in disgust, muttering under his breath before turning to spread the story further. By morning, the ship was alive with gossip. "They say the soldier eats with them," one woman whispered. "They say he drinks from the same flask," another replied with horror. "Madness," the captain said later. "It will bring sickness to the whole ship." Alex felt the pressure mounting. Soldiers avoiding his gaze, friends turning cold. Yet each night he still returned, and each night the twins greeted him with less fear. They began to mimic his gestures, learning small pieces of human speech. Their voices were soft, broken, but Alex encouraged every sound, nodding with pride each time. Sometimes he brought them scraps of cloth, letting them wrap their thin bodies against the cold. Other times he simply sat in silence, because he knew that sometimes silence carried more comfort than words. On the fifth night, when Alex brought them food again, one of the twins reached forward. For a moment, Alex thought she was taking the bread, but instead, her thin hand touched his wrist. The stench was still there, heavy and sharp, but he did not pull away. Instead, he let her hold on, and the other twin placed her hand over his too. They looked into his eyes, their glow trembling like small stars. In that single moment, Alex understood. No one had ever touched them without disgust. No one had ever stayed this close willingly, and because he did, he had become something more than a soldier to them. He had become a lifeline, but danger was brewing. The commander sent for Alex the next morning, his voice cold and sharp. "You've been feeding them, giving them water, risking contamination," the commander said. Alex stood tall, refusing to bow his head. "They are alive," Alex answered. "They deserve care." The commander's eyes narrowed, his hand slamming down on the table. "You will end this foolishness, or you will pay the price," he warned. But Alex did not reply, his silence stronger than any argument. That night, when Alex returned to the lower decks, the twins waited in the shadows. They had no words, but their eyes told the truth. They knew the humans above hated them. They knew Alex was risking everything. As he sat with them again, the ship's engines rumbled, carrying them deeper into the void. Alex felt the weight of his choice pressing on him, but also the warmth of two glowing eyes watching with trust. For the first time, he realized he was not just feeding them food. He was feeding them hope, and hope, once given, could never be taken back. The cleansing ritual. The lower decks of the colony ship were cold and silent. Only the hum of engines filled the air. Alex sat with the alien twins again, watching their thin hands clutch the scraps of cloth he had given them. Their glowing eyes looked brighter than before, but their bodies were still hidden under layers of filth. The stench had not faded. It clung to them like a curse, thick and heavy, pressing against every breath. Alex knew if he wanted the humans above to ever see them as more than monsters, something had to change. That night he carried a risk inside his mind. There was a private chamber on the ship, a place where soldiers washed after missions. It had water sprayers, cleansing gels, and vents to flush away toxins. If he could sneak the twins there, maybe he could free them from the dirt and shame they carried. It was dangerous. If anyone saw him, punishment would be swift. But the thought of leaving them to rot in filth was heavier than any fear of punishment. "Come," Alex whispered, motioning with his hand. The twins tilted their heads, confused but curious. Slowly they rose, their thin forms shaking, moving close to him like shadows. Step by step, he guided them through the quiet corridors, avoiding patrols, listening for every sound. The stench followed them, thick and undeniable. But Alex pushed forward. Finally they reached the chamber, its door sliding open with a hiss. The twins froze at the sight. Inside, gleaming metal, streams of light, and the soft mist of water spraying down. They had never seen such a place. To them it was magic, not technology. Alex guided them inside, shutting the door behind them, the lock clicking softly. The air was warmer here, filled with steam, a small mercy against the endless cold of the ship. The twins looked at him nervously, their eyes wide, as if waiting for pain. Alex shook his head gently, speaking with calm courage. "No pain, only clean," he said. He turned the first valve, and a jet of water sprayed across the chamber. The twins gasped, stepping back, their thin bodies trembling at the sudden touch. Alex reached forward, his hand steady, guiding them closer to the water. Slowly, the water ran down their alien skin, cutting through years of filth. Dark slime fell away, washing down the drain, the stench growing sharper before fading little by little. Alex coughed, his stomach twisting, but he stayed firm. He reached for the cleansing gel, pouring it gently onto their arms, scrubbing carefully. The twins shivered, not from cold, but from something deeper. No one had ever touched them with care. No one had dared. They closed their glowing eyes, letting the water run, their bodies shaking as if the filth carried memories of pain. Alex worked slowly, his hands steady, washing layer after layer. Underneath the slime, pale green skin began to glow faintly, like polished stone under light. Strange markings appeared, glowing patterns that moved like living art across their skin. Alex froze in awe, realizing they were not ugly at all. They were extraordinary. The twins opened their eyes and saw his expression for the first time. They did not see disgust. They saw wonder. Tears welled in their strange eyes, mixing with the water as it washed away the dirt. One of them reached up, placing a trembling hand on Alex's shoulder. The other pressed her forehead against the wall, unable to contain the emotion. They were not only being cleaned, they were being freed from the chains of shame, freed from the eyes that only saw filth. The stench grew weaker with every passing minute. The air became lighter, easier to breathe. Alex rinsed their hair, tangled and stiff with dirt, until it fell smooth across their shoulders. Under the water, their true forms shone tall, slender, their skin glowing faintly like starlight. They were strange, yes, alien in every way, but they were beautiful too. Not the beauty of humans, but the beauty of survival, of hidden strength, of a story untold. When the cleansing ended, the chamber floor was covered in dark water. The twins stood trembling, their glowing eyes wide, their skin shining with light. Alex handed them fresh cloths from the supply rack. Simple and plain, but clean. They wrapped themselves in silence, their eyes fixed on him. Finally, one of them whispered his name, broken but clear. Lex. The sound echoed in the chamber like music. He smiled, a lump rising in his throat, knowing this moment could never be taken back. But outside the chamber, footsteps echoed faintly in the corridor. Voices carried closer, soldiers on patrol. Alex froze, his heart pounding. If they opened the door now, everything would be lost. The twins sensed his fear, their glowing eyes narrowing, ready to defend him if needed. But Alex raised his hand, signaling them to stay quiet. The voices faded. The patrol moved on. Silence returned. Alex exhaled slowly, his shoulders heavy with relief. As the three of them left the chamber, the twins walked taller. They were still strange, still different, but no longer hidden beneath filth. For the first time, they looked like who they truly were. Alex knew danger would come, whispers would spread, but in this moment, none of it mattered, because tonight, in secret, he had given them more than clean skin. He had given them dignity. Asterisk rejection from the crew. Next morning, the colony ship buzzed with whispers sharper than ever. The stench that once clung to the lower decks had weakened, and people noticed. Some muttered that the cursed twins had changed, that something was different about them. Others insisted it was a lie, that filth like theirs could never be washed away. But one rumor spread like fire, that Alex had broken the rules, that he had touched them, fed them, even cleaned them. By midday, Alex was summoned to the upper deck. The commander's eyes were cold as iron, his voice heavy with authority. "Is it true?" he demanded. "Did you take those creatures into the wash chamber?" Alex stood tall, his jaw tight. He did not deny it. "I did," he said, his voice calm but firm. "They needed help. No one else would give it." Gasps echoed through the room. Officers exchanged horrified looks. The commander slammed his hand against the table. "You risked the health of this entire ship for filth." Alex did not flinch. His eyes burned with quiet defiance. "They are not filth," he said. "They are alive, and they deserve dignity." The crew muttered, their voices rising, some spitting insults, some shouting for punishment. "Throw him with them," one soldier sneered. "Let him rot in their stink," another hissed. "He's cursed now, same as them." The commander raised his hand, silencing the voices. His stare locked on Alex. "You will stay away from them," he ordered. "If you do not, you will no longer be part of this crew." Alex left the chamber in silence, but the sting of rejection followed him. The humans he had served beside now turned their backs. Whispering in corners, they avoided his touch, moved away when he passed, as if his skin carried the same stench as the twins. Yet when Alex returned to the lower decks that night, the twins waited, their glowing eyes soft with relief at the sight of him. They reached out, their hands trembling, and Alex sat down beside them, his voice steady. "They know now," he whispered, "and they want me to stop." The twins tilted their heads, confusion in their alien gaze, but they sensed his sadness. Days passed, and the distance grew wider. Meals were denied him. Friends who once laughed at his side ignored him. The ship felt colder, narrower, as if every wall pressed against him. Still, Alex brought food and water to the twins. Still he listened to their broken attempts at speech. Their voices grew clearer each night, their glowing eyes brighter. They were learning, slowly, and Alex's heart swelled with pride at every small word they formed. But above them, resentment hardened into anger. One evening, Alex returned from guard duty to find soldiers waiting. They stood outside the lower deck, weapons in hand, blocking his way. "You've gone too far," one said, his lips curling in disgust. "You shamed the crew, protecting them," another hissed. "You don't belong with us anymore." Alex's hand clenched at his side, but he did not reach for his weapon. "They are not a threat," he said quietly. You only fear what you don't understand. The soldiers laughed bitterly, one spitting on the floor. Fear? No, we despise them, and we despise you too. The twins heard the voices and stepped into the corridor. Their glowing skin shimmered faintly under the lights. Their new clothes still damp from last wash. The soldiers recoiled instinctively, covering their noses though the stench had faded. Hatred burned in their eyes, stronger than the truth in front of them. The smaller twin moved closer to Alex, trembling, hiding behind him. The taller one placed a hand on his arm, her glow brightening, silently asking if they should fight. But Alex shook his head slowly, his eyes never leaving the soldiers. You can hate me, he said firmly, but I will not leave them. The corridor fell silent, the words heavy as iron. The soldiers sneered, some muttered curses, but none stepped forward. Finally they turned away, their boots echoing down the hall. Leaving Alex and the twins alone, the twins clutched his arms. Their glowing eyes filled with fear and gratitude. Alex exhaled slowly, his chest heavy. Knowing the line had been drawn, later that night, the commander summoned him again. His voice was sharp, but his tone colder than before. You defied me, he said. You defied this crew. For the sake of creatures who should never have been rescued. Alex stood in silence, the weight of choice pressing against him. You are no longer welcome among us, the commander declared. Leave this ship at the next landing, or leave now into the void. The choice is yours. The words cut deep, but Alex's gaze did not waver. I choose them, he said simply, when he returned to the lower decks. The twins looked at him with questioning eyes. Alex sank to the floor, tired but unbroken. They want me gone, he whispered. And they want you gone too. The twins reached for his hands, their glowing fingers curling tightly around his. For the first time, Alex did not feel like a soldier abandoned. He felt like something greater, a protector, a bridge between worlds. In their glow he found strength. In their silence he found loyalty. And though the humans above rejected him, the twins had claimed him as their own. Exile and discovery. The colony ship descended toward a barren planet, its surface covered in jagged rocks and endless storms. The crew watched from above as Alex gathered his few belongings. At his side stood the twins, their glowing eyes calm but steady. No one wished them farewell. No one spoke a word of kindness. Only silence and cold stares followed them to the airlock. The commander's voice echoed through the chamber. Sharp as steel, you made your choice, soldier, he said. Now you will live with it. Alex looked at him without fear. Only resolve. I already made my choice, he answered, glancing at the twins. And I will live for them. The door opened, and a blast of hot wind rushed inside. The smell of dust and iron filled the air as the three stepped out into exile. Behind them, the ship lifted into the sky, leaving them to the wild unknown. The planet was harsh, its sun burning red through heavy clouds. The air was thin, forcing Alex to breathe slowly. The twins seemed less troubled, their alien lungs stronger in this strange place. They walked together across the jagged terrain, the ground cracking beneath their boots. Every sound echoed distant roars, shifting rocks, the whisper of storms. They had no home, no allies, only each other. Days passed, and hunger gnawed at their bodies. Alex rationed the little food he carried, giving most of it to the twins. They refused at first, pushing it back toward him, but he insisted. You need it more, he said, his voice steady. The twins ate slowly, their glowing eyes watching him with silent gratitude. At night, they huddled together in caves, the storm screaming outside. The glow of the twins lit the darkness, a soft green light that kept Alex from despair. On the fifth night, danger found them. A creature rose from the shadows of the canyon, its body covered in sharp scales, its mouth lined with rows of teeth. Its roar shook the walls, and Alex drew his weapon, standing firm. But before he could fire, the smaller twin stepped forward. Her glowing eyes flashing, she raised her hand, and the air seemed to tremble. The beast stopped, its body shaking as if an invisible force held it back. Alex's eyes widened. This was no ordinary alien. This was power. The taller twin moved to Alex, pressing her hand against his chest. Warmth spread through him, his exhaustion melting, his wounds from days of travel fading. Her touch carried strength, healing energy flowing into him like fire. Alex gasped, realizing what they had hidden all along. One could sense and control the will of others. The other could heal wounds and restore strength. Together, they were not weak. They were extraordinary. The creature roared again, snapping free from the smaller twin's hold. Alex fired his weapon, striking it across the shoulder. The beast shrieked and fled into the storm, its scales glowing red in the fading light. The twins hurried to him, their hands trembling, but Alex only smiled. "You saved me," he whispered. "You saved all of us." The twins exchanged a glance, their glowing eyes soft, and for the first time, they spoke clearly. "Our human," they said together, their voices broken but filled with pride. The words struck deep into Alex's heart. He was no longer a soldier abandoned, no longer a man without a place. He was theirs, and they were his, bound by choice, not by orders. That night, as they sat in the cave, Alex watched the twins rest against the stone, their glowing light painting the walls like stars. He felt a strange peace, even in the storm, because exile had not taken everything from him. It had given him a family. But peace never lasted long. On the horizon, shadows moved, shapes larger than the beast they had faced. Alien cries echoed through the storm, deep and hungry. The twins stirred, their glowing eyes narrowing, sensing danger before it arrived. Alex gripped his weapon tighter, his heart steady. "We will fight," he said, his voice firm. Together, the twins placed their hands on his shoulders, their glow brightening, and in that glow, Alex felt unbreakable. The storms raged outside, lightning tearing across the sky, but inside the cave, a bond stronger than fear had been forged. Alex realized exile was not the end, it was the beginning of something greater than any crew or commander could understand. With every breath, with every heartbeat, he knew the truth. He had not been cast out to die. He had been chosen to discover the strength of love beyond species, and the universe would soon learn what 3 outcasts could become. Battle of loyalty. The storm had raged for days on the barren planet, but now a deeper sound shook the ground. From the horizon came creatures unlike anything Alex had seen before. Towering beasts with armored hides and burning red eyes. Their cries carried across the wind, echoing like thunder. The twins stood beside Alex, their glowing skin shimmering brighter than the lightning. They sensed what he already knew. This was no hunt. This was an invasion. High above, the colony ship had returned, hovering in the skies like a silver blade. The humans on board had thought leaving Alex behind was enough, but now the danger reached for them too. Through the storm, they fired blasts of energy, but the creatures only roared louder. Scales deflected weapons. Claws tore through the colony's landing structures. The humans screamed in panic. Realizing their weapons were weak, Alex looked at the twins, his heart steady despite the chaos. "This is our fight too," he said firmly. The smaller twin raised her hand, her glowing eyes blazing. The storm itself seemed to bend, wings twisting under her command. The larger beasts slowed, their movements heavy, their wills shaken by her invisible grip. The taller twin pressed her palm to Alex's back, warmth flooding through him like fire. His strength returned, his muscles no longer weak from days of hunger. Together, they stepped into the storm. The colony crew watched in disbelief from above. The cursed twins they had rejected now stood fearless. Alex charged forward, his weapon firing with precision, striking at weak spots between armored scales. The smaller twin's voice echoed like a song, strange and sharp. The beasts staggered, their roars breaking, their claws scratching helplessly at the ground. The taller twin's glow wrapped Alex in light, every wound closing as fast as it opened. To the humans watching, it was not a battle, it was a miracle. But miracles always carried a price. The beasts pushed harder, their numbers endless, their hunger fierce. One broke free of the smaller twin's hold. Charging with jaws wide, Alex met it head-on, slamming his blade deep into its throat. blood spraying against the storm. The beast collapsed, shaking the earth. But another rushed forward, claws tearing across Alex's chest. He stumbled, coughing blood. But before he could fall, the taller twin pressed both hands to his wound. Her glow flared brighter than ever, burning through the darkness. Pain vanished, strength returned, and Alex rose once more. The crew on the ship gasped, voices crying out in awe and disbelief. "They're saving us," one shouted. "Those creatures we cast out, they're fighting for us," another whispered. The commander's jaw tightened, his pride cracking as he watched the truth unfold. The battle raged for hours, lightning cutting across the sky, claws slamming into stone. Yet wherever Alex fought, the twins fought too. Their bond was unshakable, their glow unbreakable. The beasts fell one by one, their roars fading into silence. Finally, as dawn broke through the storm, the last creature collapsed into the dust. The ground shook, then stilled, leaving only the echo of thunder in the distance. Alex fell to his knees, exhausted, his chest heaving. The twins knelt beside him, their glowing eyes wet with tears. They touched his shoulders, pressing close, whispering broken words of comfort. He smiled weakly, blood still on his lips, his voice soft. "You saved them," he whispered. "You saved all of them." But his strength faded, his head lowering against the storm-swept ground. The taller twin cried out, her glow flaring wildly. She pressed her hands harder against his chest, pouring every drop of energy into him. Her body trembled, her skin flickering like a dying star. The smaller twin held Alex's hand, refusing to let go, whispering his name again and again. Lex," she pleaded, her voice breaking through the storm. Above, the humans descended, their ship landing with urgency. Soldiers rushed out, but they did not approach with weapons this time. They approached with awe, their eyes wide at the sight of the glowing twins fighting to save the very human they had rejected. The commander stood at the front, his pride shattered, his silence heavy. For the first time, he saw the truth. The cursed ones were not a burden. They were salvation. As Alex's eyes fluttered open, he saw the twins still glowing faintly, their bodies weak but their love unshaken. He reached for them, his hands trembling, pulling them close. The soldiers stared, whispers spreading through the crowd. One voice broke through, trembling with shame. We were wrong," a soldier said softly. The commander lowered his head, unable to meet Alex's gaze, but Alex did not care for their regret. His arms were full of the only loyalty that mattered. Love beyond fear. The battlefield lay silent at last, the storm fading into calm, broken only by the sound of the wind carrying dust across the plain. The bodies of fallen beasts scattered the ground, their blood steaming under the rising sun. The humans stood at a distance, their weapons lowered, their eyes wide, not with disgust now, but with awe. At the center of it all was Alex, on his knees, his chest heaving, his arms wrapped around the twins who clung to him with trembling strength. The taller twin's glow had dimmed, her body weak after pouring all her energy into him. The smaller one still held his hand, whispering his name softly, as if afraid he might vanish. Alex opened his eyes fully, pain fading into peace, and looked at them with a gentle smile. "You saved me," he whispered, his voice broken but filled with pride. Tears glimmered in their glowing eyes, rolling down their strange cheeks, mixing with the dust. Above them, the commander stepped forward, his face heavy with shame. He opened his mouth, but no words came, only silence. The soldiers behind him shifted uneasily, their gazes flicking between the man they once rejected and the aliens they once cursed. Now those same aliens had saved their lives. The commander finally lowered his head, a gesture Alex had never seen from him before. "We were wrong," he said, his voice low, carried away by the wind. The words should have felt like victory, but Alex knew they were late. Too late for forgiveness. The twins turned to Alex, their glowing eyes searching his face. They did not need to understand human words. They could feel what mattered. For the first time, they were not monsters in the eyes of men. They were heroes. but they cared only for the man who had seen them before anyone else dared. Alex reached up, brushing the dirt from their faces, his voice tender. "You are safe now," he said. "No one will hurt you again, not while I breathe." The soldiers offered supplies, blankets, even a place on the ship again. But Alex shook his head, his eyes firm. "We don't need your pity," he said quietly. "They are my family now," the commander tried to protest. But the twins stepped closer to Alex, pressing against his sides, their glowing light shimmering brighter. Their choice was clear, their loyalty unshaken. Alex stood, still weak but held up by the strength of their touch. He turned his back on the crew, walking with the twins into the rising light of dawn. The humans watched in silence, not daring to stop them. They knew this bond was beyond their reach, beyond their understanding, and in their hearts, shame grew heavier than the storm ever had. As they walked across the barren land, Alex felt peace unlike anything before. The exile had taken his place among humans, but it had given him something far greater. He looked at the twins, their glowing eyes watching him with love, their hands clinging to his as if he were their anchor in the universe. And he realized that love did not need to look human. It only needed courage to begin. At night, they sat together under the stars, the twins resting against him, their glow painting the ground with soft light. They spoke little, their voices still learning his words, but every gesture spoke louder than language. The smaller twin leaned her head on his shoulder, whispering his name like a promise. The taller twin pressed her hand to his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. In that moment, Alex knew he had not just saved them, they had saved him too. The universe was vast, cruel, and filled with fear. But fear had not won here, on this broken world. Courage had built something stronger than fear. No one else had dared to stand with the cursed twins. No one else had dared to see their light beneath the filth. But Alex had, and because of that, he had been given a love so deep it could outshine any storm. The night stretched on, stars burning like distant fires. Alex closed his eyes, feeling their warmth pressed against him, and with a quiet smile, he whispered words only they would ever hear. No one else was brave enough. But I was, and now I will never be alone again.